Thank you. In 1933, Roosevelt's New Deal established sweeping changes to labor in America, including the first protections for workers, setting the first federal minimum wage, and founding the Works Progress Administration, which employed over 8.5 million people. As a result, the American dream was born, and it quickly became an ethos of our nation. It was a set of ideals that freedom included opportunity for success, prosperity, and upward social mobility. It was a guarantee that hard work results in a life that is richer and fuller, regardless of social class. Fast forward 88 years, and the American dream is a lot harder to recognize. Wages have stagnated for 40 years, and during that time, CEO compensation has risen by 940%. Inflation by over 300%. And the Congress has failed to raise the federal minimum wage since 2009, effectively leaving 34 million American workers in poverty. Corporate news media, lobbyists, apathetic lawmakers have come together to create a perfect storm of income inequality, wage discrimination, and labor exploitation, resulting in some of the highest levels of employee burnout and dissatisfaction in our nation's history. If the American dream is the guarantee that hard work results in a life that is richer and fuller, does this mean that our current reality of overworked and underpaid is the American nightmare? And if so, are we destined to never wake up? Corporate news media, Silicon Valley evangelists, they would convince you that the American dream is not dead. They constantly bombard us with wild stories of companies that started from almost nothing, but then grew up to become Facebook, Apple, and Uber. These are what I call the American myth. And these are the stories that we tell ourselves over and over again. We analyze their leaders in hopes of replicating their success, and we use their stories to assign value to this idea of pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. But for every myth that perpetuates the illusion of the American dream, there are a dozen horror stories about the reality of labor in America that resonates with all of us. From corporate cubicles that feel more like prisons, to harsh physical labor, to startups that were destined to change the world. But ultimately, failed violently like a collapsing star. The office rental WeWork and the blood testing company Theranos serve as examples of these American nightmares. They're the type of businesses that are obsessed with growth and fixated on the bottom line. They tend to put profit before people, and they also chase innovation at any and every cost. Their internal cultures are devoid of values, wrought with lies, and they become breeding grounds for harassment and abuse. And unfortunately, these businesses are seemingly without consequence. But for all its woes, America remains a beacon of entrepreneurialism. We lead the world in the number of new businesses created annually, and we are the birthplace of the world's largest company. As of today, there are 31 million small businesses in America. They employ 61 million people across our nation. They account for 47% of our workforce, and they produce 44% of our gross domestic product. These 31 million small businesses account for 99.9% of all American business. 99.9% of all American business is small business. What this means is that roughly 50% of our workforce generates nearly half of our economy and represent virtually all business in America. These statistics stand in direct opposition to the narrative that corporations would have us believe. This idea that they are somehow mightier and more numerous than we are. But what's really powerful about these statistics is they're also the knowledge that we can use as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, to effectively redesign capitalism in America. You see, capitalism isn't inherently good or bad. It's a system. And like all systems, it is at the mercy of those who use it. And capitalism in America has been exploited by individuals and organizations that are both greedy and selfish. And so capitalism in America has come to reflect that. But if we peel back those layers of exploitation and we look at what made capitalism so compelling, it's profitability, the ability to make money. Money that has historically been funneled to the top 1%, while the rest of us are left to sort of fight over what's left. So what if we envision a new system? A system where instead of funneling all of that money to the top, we reinvest it, we distribute it more evenly among the people involved in generating the profit. Well, as an entrepreneur, I've spent a lot of time thinking about just that. And what I've come to recognize is that I can be a part of the solution, or I can do nothing and continue to remain a part of the problem. Equitable entrepreneurship is about choosing to be a part of the solution. It's about doing the work that's necessary to build a more equitable future for everyone. And building an equity-centered business takes time and arguably way more knowledge than I can impart on you in under 18 minutes. But what I can do is I can share some insights that relate to employee experience that, according to research, are directly correlated to positive business growth and are the foundation upon which you can build an equity-focused business. It starts with respecting autonomy. And respecting autonomy is understanding that everyone is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. Populated with our own ambitions, friends, worries, routines, and if you're anything like me, inherited craziness. But in a practical sense, it's about providing flexibility around things like working hours, PTO, vacation time. Ensuring that your employees never have to choose between their personal lives and work, right? They're always going to choose their personal lives. None of us are ever going to choose work over our families and our friends. But it also means that those people will never have to fear being penalized for life simply happening. And the second is encouraging community. We know that people are valued in environments feel valued in environments where we know that people thrive in environments where they feel valued. And we know that people feel valued when their voices are heard. For this reason, engaging with your team and getting feedback when faced with new challenges is not only one of the best ways to crowdsource new ideas, it's also a fundamental way of encouraging community. And it's just good business practice. Why would you want to limit yourself to only the ideas that you can come up with? And the last one is limiting external stressors. And believe it or not, limiting external stressors is directly correlated to fair compensation. And this necessitates providing not only a living wage, but a thriving one to all of your employees. Because people can show up more fully, more aware, more frequently when they're not worried about making their ends meet and paying their bills. And furthermore, our value as people is not determined by what we produce. And so bonuses should be linked to personal and professional development, not production. Because when we reward those who are doing the work to become the best versions of themselves, they in turn are going to make our organizations better. And so what we found is that when we respect autonomy, we encourage community, and we limit external stressors, employees begin to feel valued by nature of their humanity and not the value of their labor. And this is the embodiment of what it means to live a richer and fuller life. But it's also only the beginning. We still have so much work to be done, not only in regards to economic, but social and racial equity in both our businesses and our communities. As entrepreneurs, as leaders, as citizens of the nation, it is time that we wake up from our American nightmare and recognize that before us are all the things we need to build our own New Deal. A future where CEO compensation isn't 265 times higher than the average salary, where inflation doesn't outpace wages by over 300%, where 34 million American workers aren't waiting on the mercy of politicians to be compensated fairly. A future where we provide equal life chances, regardless of circumstance or identity, to all citizens. A new American dream. And as one of more than 20 million entrepreneurs who say they started their business to make a difference in the world, I know that we will not let the enormity of this challenge stop us. I know that we will continue working towards a future that is more equitable for everyone. Thank you.